After all the madness that took place last Saturday, we have to ask, what now? Is Usman out of the GOAT conversation? I mean, after a loss like this, it's a question you have to ask, especially when he's up against people like Anderson Silva, Habib, not even the UFC, even in his own division, the welterweight division. We're comparing him to GSP now. Even if he goes back, wins the rematch with Leon Edwards, gets his title, defends it, the answer to that question is no longer clear. On the other hand, which fight do we book next, right? I mean, Usman definitely wants a rematch. We as fans probably want to see the rematch. However, you have Khamzat calling for a title shot after he wins against Nate. You have Leon Edwards saying he would give Nate a title shot if he wins against Khamzat because he says Nate is a G. And we all agree on that. But then you also have Colby, who is the number one contender. As Chael Sonnen calls him, he's the number one contender of the entire UFC roster. Like, there's not a bigger number one contender in any division than him. He's calling for a title shot. I mean, I personally think it's unfair for him to get a title shot over Usman because Usman beat him twice. But seems like not everyone agrees, even the professional analysts. And I'm not even going to bring up the undefeated talents like Sean Brady, Shavkat Rakhmonov. I mean, this division is an absolutely strange place right now. It's an absolute mess. Before this fight, Usman was up there for the GOAT conversation. And I still agree he's up there, but you have to think what this fight meant to him. It took away so many of his dreams. First of all, it toppled him from pound for pound number one spot. Now that title is held by none other than Alex Volkanovski. Leon Edwards took his title. He took his undefeated UFC streak of 15 fights. He was one win away. I mean, he was win over Leon Edwards away from tying Anderson Silva for most consecutive wins in UFC history. I mean, he's not getting that back. Now he's lost it. He's never going to go on a 15-fight run again. For Usman, it's done, right? Leon Edwards also took him down for the first time. Of course, there was the Colby takedown, which wasn't scored. I think it was a takedown, but they didn't score it, so officially, Leon Edwards gave him his first takedown. So what now? Think about it. Just a month ago, Usman was talking about going up to 205 pounds, fighting Yuri. He was talking about Canelo fight. He's gonna box Canelo. Like, he was up there, man. He was up there in the conversation of people who can do the craziest things in this sport. And now, with one headshot, bang. All of these things are out of the picture. He no longer wants to box Canelo. There's no longer a discussion about going up to 205. He just wants his title back. And even if he does come back, regains his title, which I think will happen, and if he defends it a few times, can we call him the GOAT? And I'm not even saying GOAT of the entire UFC history. I just mean the welterweight division. I mean, look at what GSP did, right? GSP did lose. GSP avenged all his losses. But he lost early on in his career, right? After losing, GSP went on a 13-fight win streak. He won titles in 2 different weight classes. He effectively ended his career on the top of the sport. So even if Kamaru Usman defeats Leon Edwards in the rematch, even if he does go on to defend his title a few times, one of the main arguments for having Usman as the GOAT above GSP was, Usman was so dominant, he never lost, right? But GSP lost. Even though he avenged his losses, he still lost. Well, after Saturday night, Usman lost too, so now it is up for discussion. And to be honest with you, I think Usman will come back, but how do we know if he'll come back the same? I mean, Bisping talked about this. He said fighters get knocked out like this and they are never the same ever again. Because after suffering a KO loss like that, you become more careful. You become more worried about what your opponent is going to do. You become scared to advance into the fire, which makes you a more passive fighter, which makes you lose. We could argue that's somewhat what happened to Jose Aldo after McGregor knocked him out, because in his fight on Saturday against Merab Dvalishvili, he wasn't advancing. He just accepted the wrestling as if he was a bit worried to advance. So in my opinion, Usman is still in the GOAT conversation, but he's a much weaker contender than he was before. Because chances of him going on another 15 fight win streak, defending his title 10 times again, is very, very low. Very, very low. I mean, the man is 35 years old. Even if he's still the best fighter, age will catch up to him. Unless he's Glover Teixeira, of course. But regardless, he still has the fight in him, of course. I mean, he was absolutely dominating Leon Edwards before the knockout. That's my opinion. Well, people say, oh, Leon Edwards won a round. And I mean, it's amazing. He did win a round, got a takedown on Kamaru Usman. But as Chael Sonnen said, Leon Edwards didn't really win a round. He won a position. He managed to take Usman down, trip him, and end up in a good position. And that's pretty much all he did before the knockout. And don't take me wrong. I mean, what he did was absolutely amazing. No one has done it before. However, saying that he won a round can also mean that he dominated Usman, but he kind of only won the position. Otherwise, Usman was completely dominant. And of course, because of the outcome of the fight, that doesn't matter. Usman lost, Leon won. However, Usman showed complete dominance. He didn't show any signs of falling off. He didn't show any signs of slowing down. So I think Usman is still a dangerous and serious contender, like he always was. So then the question is, where does the division go from here? Of course, as we said, the most obvious thing is Usman gets the rematch, right? However, that will stall the division for a long time because it's going to take at least half a year, probably, for them to get the rematch. And during that time, there's so many contenders in the division who are, in my opinion, perfectly eligible to get a title shot. So that means all these contenders that have earned their right at the title will have to fight down the rankings. They will have to fight fighters that are lower ranked than them. That will effectively freeze the title picture. However, I think that benefits the lower ranked fighters, right? Because now they will have the opportunity to climb into the top 5. So lower ranked fighters are probably celebrating at that idea. To also be fair, I wouldn't be goddamn surprised if UFC gave the title shot to Khamzat Chimaev. I know they love Usman and all that, but UFC is a money-making machine. And Khamzat being the champion would bring them so much viewership from the eastern part of the world, Eastern Europe, Russia, the Middle East, and so on. So I have a feeling they might try to push him, or at least they will make him wait until we have a new champion, either Usman or Leon, and then they will put him into the title picture. I think that will probably happen. Overall, I think this division is in a very, very peculiar spot right now. The title picture will probably be frozen for, I think, a year until we see another contender fight for the title. Top 5 fighters will have to fight down the rankings to number 10 ranked fighters, maybe top 10, maybe even top 15. Then we have Shavkat Rakhmonov, we have Sean Brady climbing up the rankings. I mean, we have Jeff Neal. It'll be a completely insane division in the next year, and I'm looking forward to see what's going to happen from now on. And thank you all so much for listening. It was a quick video, quick update what I think about the current position of Kamaru Usman and the division. As always, my MMA brothers, press like, share, subscribe, whatever you want. If you don't like it, press dislike. It's all good. Life is good, and I'll see you next time.